What's up, everybody? Axe Wizard here, back with another video on Cairn 2nd Edition backgrounds. Today we're looking at the Foundling. I know I've been gone for a while, but I'm back. So let's jump into it. So I made, as with the other ones, I've made 3 different characters, except this time I actually used this new fancy tool called Kettlewright that Yohai and his team released. You can sign up for it. I'll put a link in the description to it. And I used it to make all 3 of these characters. So let's jump in and see what the Foundling offers for a starting experience. Again, backgrounds don't determine like what your class is. It just determines how your character starts, provides some compelling story hooks for ideas for, why you are an adventurer and where you came from, and also some story threads that you can pursue. And it also determines your starting equipment. So again, it's not your class, it's just how your character starts. So let's take a look at what the Foundling is. So, an odd birthmark, a strange smell. Somehow, the touch of elsewhere still lingers. Wherever you are, you have trouble fitting in. Roll on the omens table, even if you're not the youngest player. But keep the results private for now. So, on the omens table, so in Cairn 2nd Edition, one of the new features is there's bonds and omens. So I've covered bonds in previous Cairn videos, but it's basically something relative to your character. An omen is usually something that the warden can use to weave like an overarching story narrative. And the fact that this character gets to roll one and keep it private, they could potentially bring misfortune on the party. So we'll look at what omens we rolled later on. So your starting gear, you get 3d6 gold, ration, and 3 days or 3 uses of rations, and a torch that has 3 uses, same as every other background that we've done so far. You also get a salt pouch, an heirloom amulet, which is a petty item, doesn't take up inventory space, and it glows in the presence of magic. So think of Frodo's sword Sting that glows whenever orcs are nearby. It just glows when there's magic nearby. So that could be extremely powerful to detect and potentially circumvent traps or hostile encounters, or maybe you're trying to find people who have spell books. Maybe it might help you find that. There's all sorts of different things you could do for the heirloom. There's many reasons why the heirloom amulet would be really handy to have. You also get a sling, which does 1d6 range damage, and you get a dagger, which does 1d6 melee damage. So let's talk about the first character. Let's talk about Brim. So when I made her, she was really interesting to make, and these characters, I've made so many of them, and I still have so many yet to make. Again, there's 20 backgrounds. I think I've done like 6 or 7 so far, and every time I do a background, I make 3 characters, and every time I just want to end up playing a lot of these characters. So I might use these as NPCs in like my games or whatnot. But man, it never ceases to amaze me how 2nd edition, I can just roll a completely random character that seems like it wouldn't be fun, and it is fun. So let's take a look at Brim. So with the Foundling, there's 2 tables that you roll on, similar to other backgrounds, that sort of help determine, who you are, where you came from, what you start with, so on. So this first table asks the question, who took you in? For this one, Kettlewright just basically randomized it and gave me number 2, a wizened apothecary who taught you the healing arts but maintained a clinical detachment. Take a healing unguent, restores d4 strength, 1 use. So awesome. So right away, you have sort of in your background, you have that you were taught some healing arts. So just that alone can give you a lot of interesting roleplay things, and you could potentially save lives and mitigate some damage. Maybe you could make some more of those healing unguents or whatnot. Those are pretty damn useful. Restores D4 strength. So if you get a really bad encounter and you end up taking like, critical or just damage to your strength, and usually it's kind of hard to recuperate that. Like you have to have rest. It might even require some sort of healing. Like it's not like hip protection where it's like, oh, once you take a sip of water and you chill for a bit, your strength is back. No, that's not how it works. Unless you make it that way. But this is really, really powerful and gives you a really interesting, useful sort of addition to your background, to your backstory. And then also taught you the healing arts, but maintained a clinical detachment. So even that is just a subtle story hook to who you are, why you are a foundling, and then that could potentially lead to like intimacy or trust issues later on if you want to role play that. It gives you reasons to play on distrusting people or keeping people at arm's length. So there's many ways that you can role play that or facilitate that into role play, and very interesting. I like this. I like most of the choices here, but this one was a really strong start for me when I first rolled this character in Kettlewright. So let's take a look at the next table. The next table asks, what keeps away bad tidings? So for this one, it rolled option 3, a green worm, often mistaken for a weed, swallowed whole. It absorbs any toxins or rot in the body before exiting through the usual way. So this is kind of cool. It kind of goes into the whole apothecary vibe as well, because now you've got, not only can you restore strength, but you can potentially save somebody or yourself from, dying of poison or something. So that could be huge. Maybe you're a guest of a noble or something in a town or something, and there's some political intrigue going on and somebody gets poisoned, and so you run over and save him and ram this weird ass worm in his mouth. And then he's like, oh, you saved me. And then it comes out later on when he's in the privy. There's a few ways that can be used, and so many funny things could happen from that. So I like that. That's really solid. So let's take a look at what bond and what omen we got for our foundling Brim here. So it rolled 4 on both the bonds and the omens table, apparently. So for the bond, it chose number 4. You found a tiny crystal prism, which is a petty item, buried in the dirt. When held up to the light, it shows visions of an unknown location deep within the wood. Sometimes you feel a presence looking back at you. So I know I've gotten that one a few times before. Again, there's 20 backgrounds, 3 characters of background. I'm going to make 60 characters. There's only 20 bonds. I'm going to have some overlap. But the cool thing is that even if you have characters who have the same bonds, it's still relative just to them in their own way. And so there's many ways that the warden can weave these together and make these come together in a very enthralling interactive storytelling that just makes role-playing games awesome. And I can't stop raving about how easy Cairn makes it to just do that. You're not bogged down by as many rules as D&D 5th edition or Pathfinder. Some people like the rules so that they can min-max and then combat and all that stuff. And I totally get that. But I find things just flow much more easier with lightweight systems like Cairn. And I will probably eventually check out some other ones as well. I know I've gotten lots of recommendations for other ones, especially even from Yohai himself. Especially ones to play with my boys and I. So at some point I might check those out. I'm not gonna make any promises, but for now I'm completely happy with Cairn. I'm eager for the fulfillment to be fulfillment to happen on the Kickstarter. I want to get my starter box with all my players guides, my warden guides, the character sheets, all that stuff. Because I like having things physically in my hand. PDFs and stuff are fine, but I like having books. So, and then for the Omen, we rolled for Brim Number 4 as well. The night sky grows dimmer each evening, as if stars are disappearing one by one. Rumors of hellish creatures capturing farmers and pulling them into the roots are spreading like wildfire. Village elders believe the two are connected. So the fact that the Foundling gets to have an omen rolled and then keep it private and then just randomly spring this shit on the party later has lots of fun, intriguing possibilities for me as both a player and a warden. So I really like that idea. So this kind of gives you an overarching, again, it's a tool for the warden to use to come up with like an overarching story. Like maybe this helps generate the big bad. Like you don't have to know everything up front. It gives you a story hook that you can flesh out as you go, which is the beauty of interactive storytelling. I love it. And this is super compelling. The night sky grows dimmer each evening. How cool is that? To like every day you're doing something, you're tracking other goals. Maybe you're finding your way, to a dungeon to get some sweet loot. And then, the warden just drops subtle hints here and there that it just grows dimmer and dimmer each evening. Stars are disappearing one by one. Hellish creatures capturing farmers, like that can spawn like some side quests or whatever if you're thinking about it from like a Skyrim RPG perspective or whatever. And then pulling them into the roots. So in the setting of Vald in 2nd edition Cairn, there's the overworld where people are, like stuff. There's the forest, which is sort of has laws unto its own, and then there's roots, which is like basically I compare it to like the Fey realm or something in D&D or whatever. It's just a completely different place, and everything, like nothing might make sense there. Like it has its own rules. It's awesome. And the roots, there's so many possibilities you could do with the roots. There's so much leeway you can do, time passage, all sorts of different things. So this will eventually pull you in a quest into the roots if you so choose to figure out what's going on. And it's not defined here what it is. Like he doesn't say, oh, there's Baron von Evilbad who's in the roots and he's kidnapping villagers to sacrifice to Count von Evilface. It's up to you to make it happen. So you could make it whatever you want. It could be something like an evil fairy, or not even evil. It could just be a fairy who just wants to save people from the misery of their existence and take them to a better place. And so these hellish creatures aren't hellish at all. They're more like equivalent to angels. So maybe you could swing the perspective and really mess with people's perspectives and perception. Again, I could go on for hours about these bonds and omens. I love this system. It's cool. So let's take a look at Brim's character sheet. So let's start with her stats. So I just randomized everything. I didn't swap stats around. It gave me 10 strength, so she's got average strength. She's got above average dexterity with a 13 and slightly below average willpower with a 9. And she rolled a pretty good 3 for starting hit protection. And then her traits, again, I randomized everything here. So she has an athletic physique, scarred skin, luxurious hair, a sharp face, precise speech, frayed clothing. Her virtue is that she is serene, and her vice is that she's craven, which means she's could be considered a coward or fearful, right? So just those traits alone. She has the athletic physique, which I think easily corresponds to the strength and dexterity. Having average strength and above average dexterity, there's different kinds of athleticism, right? Like a power lifter might have heavier strength, but then, like a swimmer or a runner might have more dexterity, and those are both athletic things, right? So she's got scarred skin. So right away, that gives you the leeway as a character, like, why does she have scarred skin? How did she get that? So there's another subtle story hook that you can flesh out and really make your character your own and make a compelling story that the warden can also latch onto and incorporate into future sessions. It's awesome. Luxurious hair, even that can be a role-playing thing. How do you use like Pantene Pro V? Like, what do you have for your hair? How is it so luxurious? I don't know, maybe you were like blessed by a Sprite or something, right? That just gives you shampoo water whenever you wash your hair. I mean, who knows, right? A sharp face, precise speech. So the precise speech can be interesting to role play. I don't know how I would interpret it. I think the nice thing is that with most things in Cairn, it's not like this is the way it is and this is the way it has to be and you're in this box and if you don't fit in, no, it's like it's open to interpretation, whatever you and the warden agree upon. So precise speech. So I would imagine you would be very careful with your words. You probably wouldn't use things like I do a lot. And I would imagine it would be calculating as well. So you wouldn't necessarily say extra words that don't need to be said. You would just be rather concise, which is not the same as precise, I guess, but it might be a synonym in this case. So role-playing a thoughtful character who, was taught by a wizened apothecary and had a clinical detachment, and that could be a reason for the precise speech. You had to say things in a succinct, precise manner when you're. It could be a trait that you picked up while you were working with the wizened apothecary, and so even thinking about role-playing that is appealing to me. Frayed clothing. I mean, even something as simple as that can be like, why is it frayed? Okay, do you need new clothes? Like, do you just prefer to wear dirty stuff? Is it a reminder to you of where you came from? Does your clothing have significance to you? Even something that's not intended to be a mechanic, you can make it that way. You can make it part of your character. For her virtue to be serene, I would imagine that you could easily do that. It kind of goes with her precise speech. I would imagine she's not perturbed by too much, but then also she does have that vice of being craven. So she may have random, she doesn't like confrontation, or she's always scared something's going to happen. And so it really, like, serene and craven kind of counteract each other, I think, in a way. So I think it's situational, because you just like, it's like that meme where it's like, there's inside of you, there's two wolves. Which one is winning right now, or whatever, right? And it's like, I don't know, go to the hospital. You shouldn't have wolves inside you. So, and then you can see I've got her stats or her inventory and her petty items. She started out with 9 gold, no armor. None of the characters here started with any armor. So combat-wise, they might not be the best, but they do start with a ranged weapon, which is nice. I do like playing ranged characters. And fun fact, I can almost use a sling in real life. I can basically hit stuff like in a cone in front of me, but I can't. I'm trying to narrow that cone, and it never gets like narrower than this. It's always like out here, and then after a few throws, it gets to about right here, and then that's where it stays. So, and she gets a dagger. So cool. She's got all of her other stuff here. And yeah, again, this is, that's Brim. I think she's a great character. Like, there's so many things that you can pick up on, and 10 different people could pick this character that I rolled, and they can interpret things in their own way. And if you give them like a half hour to just brainstorm and kind of flesh out the rest about the idea of their character, they would play them in 10 different ways. So I love it. It's fantastic. Let's look at our next one. I believe I named this one Gossamer is the one that was picked. So Gossamer, you can see he looks a little different. He's got like a robe or something on, and he's got that amulet on, and he's got his sling and his dagger. So for his options, for his table, who took you in? Kettlewright gave me number 6. The monks of a secluded forest monastery. When the rules became too strict, you snuck away. Take a monk's habit, which is warm and petty, and a spell book of control plants. Control plants. Nearby plants and trees obey you and gain the ability to move at a slow pace. Leaves grow along the spine, and it smells faintly of decay. So right there, holy balls, he has a spell book. Spell books are extremely rare. So this not only gives him a super powerful spell, and again, even the spell itself is somewhat vague. Nearby plants and trees obey you. Okay, what do you tell them to do? Do the twist? You know, you could do that, or you could tell them to like make a barrier and block people who are chasing me or whatever, or prepare an ambush. And they gain the ability to move at a slow pace. And then the description of the book itself, where leaves grow along the spine and it smells faintly of decay. Why does it smell of decay? Is it an evil book? Nobody knows. Because all the magic comes from the roots, baby. It's not like you got a wizard in a tower just making spell books for you. No, you got to find that shit. It's old, it's ancient, it's spooky. So I like that it's open-ended, so you can control plants. I mean, can you imagine how many uses that would have? How awesome that would be. But then also you have the danger of possessing a spell book, because again, if people see you with a spell book, they want that spell book. So you become a target. So you might endanger the entire party. So you might have to be reserved and thoughtful in your applications of using that spell book. And then, of course, being taken in by the monks of a secluded forest monastery. How cool of a backstory is that? Like, what kind of monks are they? Are they kung fu monks? Are they like, Odyssey Domine monks? Like, who knows, right? You could do all sorts of, you could go so many ways with that. Of a secluded forest monastery. It's secluded, so nobody knows who the hell they are, right? It's maybe not even a well-known order. So right there, that's awesome. When the rules became too strict, you snuck away. So maybe now you have a problem with authority, right? So there's another roleplay hook right there. Bam, awesome. Next table. What keeps away bad tidings? This one rolled number 4. A dreamstone. A smooth blue stone that helps recall dreams more clearly. Overuse can cause dream addiction. So right there, a smooth blue stone that helps recall dreams more clearly. Awesome. So right away as a warden, I'm thinking, I can throw some dreams at the party and see if they use this dreamstone. And what happens if they overuse it? They get addicted to dreams. What if they don't get dreams? Do they go through withdrawals? What does dream withdrawal look like? There are so many things that I don't know, but I kind of want to figure it out together, right? So Dreamstone, while not something that can be like easily understood the use for, like an ivy worm that, hey, it absorbs any toxins. Like, that's pretty straightforward. This is a lot more abstract, which means that I think it's a lot more fun because it's something that you might never use. It's something that you might end up using a lot and then become addicted to dreams, especially if the warden start not even if the warden. What if one of the omens kind of ties in dreams to things? What if you have so for example, I guess we'll see what omen we get for Gossamer here. But I was thinking for Brim's omen, how like the shadows or whatever, it's starting to get darker, stars are going out, hellish creatures are kidnapping people and taking them into the roots. What if you experience a dream of that? That's an easy win for the warden right there. Next thing you know, it's like, but you can't recall. Oh, sorry, I bumped the microphone. But you can't recall like where it was, so you might say, what if I use my dreamstone and try to recall more details about it? And then the warden might provide a little bit more, and then there's all sorts of possibilities. I like it. I like the option. So let's go over the bond and the omen. So Kettlewright rolled 1 for the bond. You inherited a single gem. 500 gold pieces, cold and brittle, from a long dead relative. It arrived with a warning: squander your newfound riches, and a debt long forgotten would be called in. So I've covered this bond before, but it's awesome. You have this gem, which potentially is worth a lot of money, but it's also cold and it's brittle. So you could potentially shatter it and you could ruin your chance at, getting that fortune. And then what does squander mean? Who determines it? So if you do sell it and you get the money's worth, or you trade it for something, what do you trade it? What did you trade it for? Would it be deemed worthwhile by, I assume, like your long dead relative? Who was your long dead relative? Why did they have this gem? Where did it come from? What's their backstory? How does it affect you? There are so many branching questions that you could use to weave this, backstory that's as interesting and detailed as you like. Now, I don't recommend like writing a 47-page thesis for your background. No one's going to want to listen to that. But, a paragraph or two that's really compelling, you're well on your way. Like, this is awesome. And you also leave things kind of open-ended so the warden can help you define it as you go. Maybe this is what your character's motivation is, to find out where this gem came from. Who was my long dead relative? What is this debt that would be called in if I squander it? So right there's a bunch of story hooks that can just be ready to go. It's awesome. For the Omen, Kettlewright rolled 3. A thick, unnatural fog has begun encroaching upon an ancient and holy grove. It is said to be the work of a great forest spirit, angered by nearby deforestation. Okay, so that Omen already has lots of things, and it can easily tie into that dreamstone you got earlier. So I love the way that things can interconnect and mesh together, and there's, oh my gosh. So for example, like maybe you are, again, going about your business, doing your quests or whatever you're doing, pursuing whatever goals you're pursuing, and then you start noticing that this thick, unnatural fog has begun encroaching upon this like forest that everyone reveres as being a holy place. And maybe there's pilgrimages that go there that nobody's coming back, or maybe there was a survivor that came back and said everyone's dead, and so you guys go check it out, and maybe the fog is too thick, so you decide to back out and camp out because it's getting dark, and the next thing you know, you have a dream about it, and you gotta bust out that dream stone and try to recall more details about it, try to focus. There's lots of ways that this can tie in, and even just making these characters just is sparking my creativity. I love it. So let's take a look at Gossamer's character sheet. So again, I just rolled the stats straight. I didn't swap anything. I didn't custom choose anything. These were all 100% rolled by Kettlewright. So he's got average strength of 10. He's got above average dexterity of 12, and he has above average willpower, also 12. He also rolled 4 hit protection. So let's see his traits. So he's got a rugged physique, which can be interpreted different ways. He has tan skin. He's got wavy hair. He has a bony face. He also has precise speech. He has filthy clothing. He's disciplined, but he's also lazy. So I'm already seeing correlations here between the stats and his background choices, and even the omens or the a bond. So he's got that precise speech, right? I'm sure he got that from the monastery that he was at. Also, the fact he's disciplined, maybe that could be the result of the monastery. But his vice is that he's lazy. So maybe that's why he decided to leave, because he got tired of doing all these damn chores and being told what to do. Like, he's disciplined in the manner that he knows what needs to be done and he does it, but he's lazy in the fact that he would prefer other people to do it. So he doesn't necessarily have to be him doing it, right? So there's ways that you could because there's so many characters that I roll that it seems like the bond or it seems like the virtue and the vice kind of are at odds. but there's ways that they're not, right? So I think that's awesome. So filthy clothing, maybe he just wears his monk's habit all the time and he doesn't ever wash it. And a real rugged physique, tan skin, wavy hair, bony face. Dude, why does he have a rugged physique? Maybe it's rugged because at the monastery they had him scrubbing floors and stuff all the time, and his body is just kind of beat up, but also simultaneously tough. And he's got this tan skin, all sorts of different things that you can derive from those in his background. I love it. So he rolled 6 for his gold, so he's kind of poor, which seems to be in keeping with a monk. No armor. He's got his inventory here. He's got that spell book of control plants. He's got that dreamstone, and he has that single gem worth 500 gold pieces. And I kind of put a summary of his stuff in the notes. And again, this character is another one that I would play, and man. Again, it's sparking my creativity. But that is Gossamer, and I think he's pretty cool. You can find so many ways to relate the character's background to your own experiences as a player, and maybe that what might make it more appealing. So even though I've never been in a monastery, there's other things I've been into to where I could relate, or at least try to empathize what it's like to be in his position. And then it makes it much easier to role play that character and to, what decisions would my character make? Why is my character the way it is? What would my character do in this scenario, right? All sorts of different cool things. So next, we have a little short guy. This is Snowdrop. And this guy, I think might be my favorite. I don't know. So his choice for the first table of who took you in, Kettlewright gave us a 5. A troupe of traveling entertainers. For a time, they were like family to you. One day you woke up and they were gone with no explanation. Take a storybook, a dagger that does D6, and some burning questions. So holy shit, right there, that is a story hook right there. You were taken in by some traveling entertainers and they were like family to you, and then one day they were gone with no explanation, but they left you a storybook, a dagger, and you have tons of questions. Okay, so maybe your character's main motivation is to find out what the hell happened to your family. You don't think that they would desert you, but they apparently did. Were they taken? Did they have to leave you by? Was it for your own safety? What happened to them? Where did they go? There's so many questions that I would imagine this character has, and you could easily jump into that. And as the warden, there's different things you can drop subtle hints of oh, there was some traveling entertainers that came through, and it might spark your ears oh my god, your ears might perk up and be traveling entertainers, where, right? So, and you get a storybook. What is the storybook about? Doesn't say. That means you could make it whatever. It could be green eggs and ham for all we know. But is that relevant to you? Does it have a special meaning to your character? Is there a hidden message that maybe the troupe of traveling entertainers that was your family tried to leave you? Maybe the storybook can be interpreted, but it's so vague that you're not quite sure, so you still have those burning questions. Right away, fantastic story hook. And you get a second dagger, so you can be all Assassin's Creed and shit, which is awesome. So for the second table, what keeps away bad tidings? Kettlewright rolled a 1, which gives us pipeweed, your good luck charm. Conversations tend to flow more easily after a smoke. And it's got 6 uses. So cool. So right away, that's something that immediately you can see the use of, and you can see how to apply it, and it seems useful right off the bat. But also, it's got 6 uses, so it's finite. Can you get more? Is it rare? What does it cost? Is it like an addiction that you have to feed? Don't know. It says pipeweed. Does it have any other adverse effects? So it says conversations tend to flow more easily after a smoke. Does that mean that you're too talkative? Does that mean that you might potentially divulge information that you wouldn't normally divulge to a stranger? To an enemy, perhaps? So, again, all sorts of just endless possibilities. I love it. So let's take a look at the bond and the omen that Snowdrop has. So Kettlewright gave us a 5. You once freed a naiad from a choked stream. In return, it gave you some silver moss, which is a petty item. Swallow it near water, and the creature will come once to repay its debt. I think I've got that one before. And again, all sorts of possibilities. How did you save the naiad? What even is a naiad? I'm sure it's in the bestiary or the bestiary, whatever it's called. But a choked stream. How did you free it from the choked stream? Did you let the water flow again? Did that have other adverse effects later on? Maybe that could have been a cause of why your troop had to leave. Maybe they were swept away from this stream that is now a raging river because you had to save a naiad that a bunch of beavers and stuff damned in there. I don't know. Right? And you get some silver moss, which is a petty item. Swallow it near water, and the creature will come once to repay its debt. So you have to be near water, and you just swallow it. Well, what does the silver moss do? Does it have any adverse effects? Doesn't say. Doesn't say it has to, but doesn't say that it can't have adverse effects, right? And to repay its debt, what determines repay? Like, how devious are naiads? Because again, they're not humanoid creatures, I don't think. So they might have different code of ethics. So, the naiad maybe was just uncomfortable and its life wasn't in danger. So it's not like you saved its life. Maybe when it comes to repay its debt and you're like on the verge of death or whatever, it might make you more comfortable. Who knows, right? What does it mean to repay the debt? How does it determine that? So there's some leeway that can happen there. And then for the omen, this also rolled the same one that Brim had, the number 4. The night sky grows dimmer each evening, as if the stars are disappearing one by one. Rumors of hellish creatures capturing farmers and pulling them into the roots are spreading like wildfire. Village elders believe the two are connected. So I've already talked about that one. I don't need to say anything more on it, but again, really compelling story hook. So let's take a look at Snowdrop's character sheet. So you can see he's got a slightly above average strength, well above average dexterity, and above average willpower. And he maxed out his hit protection at 6. So really good starting stats. He also starts with 10 gold, which isn't too bad. And his traits is that he has a short physique, which is kind of fun. He has marked skin, which, that has roleplay stuff. How is it marked? Was it like a burn? Is it a birthmark? What kind of mark? Is it like a brand? Is it a tattoo? Like, how are you marked, right? Curly hair, broken face. Why's your face all broken, right? Whispery speech, which I guess it would kind of talk like this. So maybe you're not too confident in your voice, right? Who knows, right? How would you play that? Foreign clothing. So right away, I kind of put him like in what I imagine like a traveling troupe would wear, where it looks kind of foreign and not really, it's not normal clothing, right? His virtue is that he's honorable, and then his vice is that he's greedy. Again, that seems like they can be conflicting, right? But I don't think they are. Not necessarily. You could, honorably do things, but then when it comes time to, getting rewards or whatnot, you might be able to ask for more, or you might also hoard the things you have, and you might not be so generous with sharing. Not necessarily dishonorable, right? So really cool there. And you can see we've got his inventory and stuff. So he's got his double daggers, which I think is cool. So he has a ranged weapon, and he has 2 melee options. So if he ever has to get up close and personal, he can cut somebody. And since he rolls 2d6 and then picks the highest number, he has a higher chance of doing more damage, which is nice. And I threw his notes and stuff in there, the pipeweed, the silver moss, the heirloom amulet, his backstory of the troop of traveling entertainers. So I think Snowdrop is my favorite one, not only because he has higher stats and it makes it easier, but I like the story hook of the traveling entertainers who disappeared and you don't know why. And there's so many different ways that could be played, and all of them sound awesome, right? So I also like he starts with double daggers, just because I like the aesthetic of having double daggers, right? Sounds cool. And yeah, so there you go. That is Snowdrop, and that is the characters. So what are your thoughts on the Foundling background? Hopefully this sparks your interest, because I had a blast making these characters, and I'm probably just going to jump right into making characters for the next background, which I don't know off the top of my head what it is. Let's see. It looks like it's going to be the Fungal Forager, so that'll be fun. So keep an eye out for that video. I'm going to have that out soon. I know I had a long hiatus of content not coming out, but I'm back. I'm actively making content again. I'm excited to be back. And I'm also excited to be talking about Cairn some more. So thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. Listen to me ramble. And I will see you in whatever video I make next.